So it's time to read from the little book of wisdom, Believing in Myself. So I'm going to turn to April 27th, which is today. The past is smoke. When necessary, blow it away. It has often been said that our perceptions are like glasses that, once in place, affect and colour all that we see. That vision, of course, becomes our reality, our truth, but it is important to realize that most of our perceptions were forged in a fire that is now history. A fire long grown cold. What happened, happened. It can never be undone. However, there is no need to drag it through each day of our present life. Most obstacles to enjoying a positive, gentle self-image are due to the negative lessons we learned long ago. Those lessons reinforce perfectionism, passivity, fear of intimacy, or feelings of unworthiness, love, or happiness. These are lessons of the past. As such, they are smoke, not real anymore unless we allow them to be real. Many a brave soul, trudging towards a better tomorrow, has come to learn how to deal with a shame attack. That means recognizing that it is a flashback that can either blow away like dandelion seeds or take root in the present. We are the ones who must decide whether the power of the past will grow or go. The lesson: I can allow the ugly past to blow away. All it takes is the desire and the effort to let it go. My personal experience with this, and especially what a lot of you free birds know I've been going through, is it's just very relevant to me at the moment, and it's a lesson. It's a really important lesson, just to move on, to let things go, to not be affected by how other people behave towards you, and not, take on their stuff, but just be the best person you can be in every single moment, and control the way that you react to certain situations, because we cannot control the actual situation. Okay, so April 28th. Friendships, like marriage, are dependent on avoiding the unforgivable. Everybody knows that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But perhaps we don't stop to consider how important this homely bit of folk wisdom may be to our personal relationships. Some words simply must never be spoken. Some situations must never be allowed to occur. Our treasured relationships are just too valuable to handle carelessly. Nothing is worth the unforgivable insult or betrayal. Far better for us to appear the coward and walk out the door if a confrontation is going out of control. Far wiser to shoot ourselves in the foot rather than pierce a friend's soft underbelly with an unhealable wound. Occasional strain and friction are inevitable in any relationship, but we need loving relationships with our friends to support our self-esteem. When there is conflict, we may need to withdraw to protect their self-esteem as well as our own. At a later time, when tempers and tensions have cooled, we will both be glad of the self-restraint. The lesson: sometimes retreat is the only way to win. Definitely, this is definitely a lesson for me because, in the heat of the moment, sometimes, I can say things that I don't mean and, maybe hurt someone's feelings. And, it's easy to do when emotions are running high. And for both of you involved in the conflict, it's easy to just say things that are hurtful and that deep down you really don't mean. But because you're hurt yourself, because you're feeling these negative emotions and you're feeling that the other person is to blame, it's easy to then lash out and, put yourself on a level where you're compromising your own integrity and you're hurting others unnecessarily. So that's definitely an important one. Personal insults for people that you're towards people that you're very close to can really be damaging, especially. Okay. April 29. To know oneself, one should assert oneself. There are times when a feeling of insignificance assails us. Very often there is a false perception that needs to be quickly banished. The truth is that we are more important than we sometimes think we are. There is no reason not to be proud of the constructive things we have done. It is a mistake to minimize the successful completion of a task. The learning of a new skill, a good habit strengthened or a bad habit eliminated. Most of us have many, many worthwhile accomplishments, great and small, to feel good about. We are more worthwhile and attractive than we sometimes realize. It often helps to advertise our achievements a bit, instead of always being so frank about our failures. This can be done without boasting. An honest recital of an accomplishment or a mention of a skill shows healthy self-esteem. It is not being modest when we shy away from asserting ourselves. We can't expect other people to continually reassure us of our worth if we're not willing to speak up for ourselves. Today's lesson: there's nothing wrong with tooting my own horn once in a while. I feel like this one's, pretty relevant to me at the moment because sometimes I can definitely talk myself down and, ignore my achievements. And I feel like in society we are really taught to do that. Don't be proud of something you've achieved. Don't boast about it. Don't be vocal about it, or have that self-recognition, even though it's really important to do that as well. So we actually grow further as people. And in this society, we are taught to, in the Western culture in particular, kind of pull down people that we see as successful in some way. We want to just bring them down a few notches so we sometimes feel better about ourselves. And I can see that a lot. And it's really an unhealthy way to live. So, don't be afraid to be proud of your achievements, no matter how small they are. Because every time you recognize something you have achieved, you are adding to your self-esteem, to your self-worth. You are becoming the person you truly, truly want to be, slowly but surely. each time you recognize that. So it's definitely, it's a lesson for me as well. And I don't claim to be perfect. I'm growing and learning every day. So April 30th. 2 things are bad for the heart: running uphill and running down people. So running uphill. I tend to disagree that that's bad for the heart, but that depends how healthy your heart is. So trashing others as a harmless form of amusement is a nasty habit, but it's common enough to prop ourselves up by putting other people down. No doubt it's the major sport in most workplaces. Unfortunately, people bashing is a sport that injures the self-esteem of everyone who plays it. This is so for a couple of reasons. The first is the psychological aspect that the mind always moves towards its dominant thought. To run down people, we must first stroke our minds with negative thoughts. Those thoughts are then translated into cutting words. But the very act of inviting and hosting negative thoughts cuts into ourselves first. Before we even say a word, we've done damage. The second reason we are hurt when we run people down is that we weaken any possibility of forming a bond of community with them. Self-esteem is based on membership in a community of some sort. It's fostered by people who care, people we can count on, people whose smiles tell us they are glad to see us. Habitually running people down makes us poor, untrustworthy candidates for membership in such a community. Far better for health, mental as well as spiritual, to grow from the exercises of lifting others up. The lesson: healthy people don't make sport of other people's flaws. Okay, so I know some of you are now going to comment, Freelee, you were like that on your main channel. You were a nasty, mean bully. You would belittle people and make fun of them. You would personally insult people. But that's actually not true, and I'm constantly misrepresented because of the way some people interpret those videos. Unfortunately, as soon as you mention like somebody's weight, or you do a reaction to somebody's video about their health or how they eat, you become seen as like a bad person. Even people who do it in the softest way possible are, labeled as bad people, even though we are not. And I agree that it was an aggressive, sort of in-your-face style presentation, and I happily want to move away from that style of video and that style of presenting, but it was a very effective way in reaching millions of people with the vegan message and actually saving millions of animals' lives in the process. So, I never regret the way that I delivered these videos, but that doesn't mean I want to go back to delivering in that style. They did serve a purpose, and I know it's very taboo to, comment on someone's weight. And I did that a couple of times because I genuinely wanted to make the connection between how they were eating and living and the weight gain and also their health issues they were experiencing. And thankfully, a lot of YouTubers, well-known YouTubers such as Jenna Marbles and Shane Dawson, actually took the advice really positively, and we formed a friendship from that. So it just shows that It's all in the interpretation. And I understand if some of you don't want that style, and I don't either anymore. But it was very effective, and now we're moving on to another style. Alright, so I'm going to go on to May 1st. There is no such thing as absolute value in this world. You can only estimate what a thing is worth to you. Self-esteem is not magic. It is not a mysterious cosmic phenomenon that may or may not come to be. Self-esteem is a product. The steps it takes to build self-esteem are not so different from the steps it takes to build anything else. From model airplanes to spaceships, first you have to understand the basic anatomy of what you are trying to construct. Once you grasp that, the most important part of the project is already done. If esteem is the value we place on something, then self-esteem in its simplest terms is the value we place on ourselves. Who we think we are determines how much we think we're worth. So how do we define ourselves? We need to scrutinize our self-definitions if we want to build self-esteem. If we work off of plans for a model airplane, we're not going to end up with a spaceship. Suppose we wear an apron at work instead of a pinstripe suit. Do we value costumes so much that we devalue respectable work? We are not our costumes. Suppose we have spent some time in jail. Must we forever define ourselves that way? Or may we now think of ourselves as free citizens getting on with our lives? Less than definitions must be retranslated if we want to feel good about ourselves. Self-esteem is a product of positives. Negative self-definitions lay a weak foundation for growth. Very, very true. And this is kind of similar to what we were talking about before, about talking yourself down and stuff like that. I mean, there's enough people in the world to talk you down and to not believe in you without you not believing in yourself. So just do it. Just believe in yourself. Because if you don't, I guarantee no one else will believe in you either. And they will not respect you. They will not respect what you say or anything you do. And that can become a really painful existence. Okay. May 2nd. If an ass goes travelling, he'll not come back a horse. An ass, aka a donkey. People who've already worn out shoes on the recovery path have much to tell us tenderfoots about what lies ahead. Keep on coming, they might say. The hills aren't too steep, and you can wade across the river. And some of their messages are warnings. Forget about detours. They'll only waste your time and get you lost. They caution us against wandering off in the wrong direction. One of the ways newly recovering people tend to wander off is by taking a geographical. This means looking in a different place for what we are too blind to see in our own backyards. It means moving, not to get somewhere, but to get away from somewhere. When we seek a geographical cure, we forget that the patient comes right along with us. Where we are isn't going to transform who we are into something we are not. Self-esteem isn't out there waiting for us in another town or state. To be sure, there are times when a big move is necessary, but in the early days of recovery, when self-esteem is shaky, we're usually wise to stick to the territory we know. We need to avoid detours, side trips, and meandering of any kind. We have more important things to think about than whether the sky is sunnier someplace else. The lesson: following the advice of proven leaders can save me many a wrong turn. What comes to mind here for me instantly is when I was younger and I wanted to go to India to find myself. I wanted to go and practice yoga there because I thought that, I couldn't find myself where I was in Australia. So I was working towards that for some time, and then I couldn't end up going, and then I was stuck with myself. I was stuck trying to find myself without actually changing my location. And that really helped me a lot. It helped me realize that, I still had myself to deal with. I still had to develop myself. And India wasn't going to help me do that at this point. It's important to remember that we cannot run away to a new land and expect to come back a completely different person. Maybe we will be changed for sure in some way, but we still have those deep foundational issues that we need to address. Okay, free bats, that is my affirmation reading for today from Believing in Myself. I hope you enjoyed it. I might upload the rain sounds and the water sounds without any voice, because it's going to be really awesome for you to sleep to. Okay, I love you, free birds, and I will see you soon.